What's happening, everybody? This is episode 4 of VMRockstar, and today we're going to be building upon episode 3 where we set up the 3 nested ESXi hosts, and we're going to be building a vCenter and preparing it for a nested vSAN environment in that same environment we stood up last time. So in this episode, we're going to basically go through and create a data center, add our ESXi host that we did in our previous episode, put the host in maintenance mode, add a vSwitch, create a port, vSAN port group, add some kernel ports as well as physical adapters, and then also IP address those VM NICs that are going to be part of vSAN, and then enable those NICs that are going to be part of the vSAN cluster. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and get started by connecting to our vCenter. And we'll go ahead and define some variables. First off is our data center, our cluster names, our addresses of our hosts. We're going to make a variable for all of our hosts, as well as the VM names themselves. So let's go ahead and define those. So first off, we're going to start by create a data center and cluster. So in this, we'll do a new data center and use that variable. The location is going to be we're going to put it in the default folder, and then once we do that, we're going to create a cluster, and the name that we're going to give it is ESXiCluster. Location is going to be in our data center. We're going to enable DRS. We're going to tell the mode that it's going to be fully automated. So let's go ahead and execute those 2 lines. And we'll go ahead and look in the web browser as well, just to make sure that everything's hunky-dory. So it looks like it's created both the cluster and the data center here. And we'll be able to see that right now. And here's our cluster. All right, so let's go back and we'll check out our script. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the ESXi hosts to be managed by vCenter. And let's go ahead and add vmhost $host 1 location is going to be the data center, user is root, the password is $password, $pw, the variable we created up here. And then we're going to force. So let's go ahead and execute that for our first host. This first host we're not going to put in the cluster. We're going to put it separate because this is our actual physical host. I'll go back to vCenter and see it actually adding it right here. 90% complete. Looks like it successfully added it. All right, now we're going to add our other nested ESXi hosts. First off, though, before I do that, I want to show you actually the nested ESXi host that I have in here. So this is my ESXi host, my physical, as well as the 3 ESXi VMs that we created in the last episode, as well as a vCenter. So we're going to be going over here, adding it actually to this cluster that we created in the previous script. So $host 2 location we're gonna actually add this to the cluster now. User root password and $pw and force. And so since we're gonna do this 3 times, I'm just gonna copy this, Control C, Control V 3 times, and all I'm going to change is the host in here. And I'm going to execute these 3 lines, and then you'll be able to see inside vCenter it actually adding those hosts to this cluster. Added host 1. Let's see in vCenter. And it successfully added it. Alright, now that we've successfully got all our ESXi hosts in vCenter, as well as the cluster set up, we're going to put all the hosts in maintenance mode. So we're going to do a get vmhost. And we're going to tell it all hosts, that variable that we created up here. And we're going to tell it to set vmhost. The state is going to be in maintenance. Let's go ahead and execute that. And we'll go ahead and check in vCenter. Oh, all the hosts are in maintenance mode now. Alright, that's completed. So now we're going to add a vSwitch to the ESXi hosts and create a vSAN port group. So I'm going to define a variable inside here. So it's going to be called vmhost equals get vmhost, and then I'm going to do it for the IP address of right here. Alright, so we defined our first VM host as the 201. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable called vSAN switch. And we're going to do a get as virtual switch. Oops, switch. And tell it the host is VM host. And then the name of the switch is vSwitch 0. So let's go ahead and first see what actual hosts or switches are on there on this host. So go ahead and execute this part, and we actually see that there's actually a vSwitch 0, so that should successfully execute. Alright, that did. Alright, now that we got that variable defined, we're going to make a physical NIC, and we're going to tell it to get vmhost network adapter. We're going to tell it the host, which is our VM host, and the name is going to be called vmnic1. Let's go ahead and see what actual adapters this host has. We can execute this portion of the code. Looks like there is a vmnic1 right there. And so we should be able to define that variable just fine. It does. We'll execute that part just to see what it sees. Yep, that works successful. Now, let's create a variable called myStandardSwitch. And then the host is going to be again our VM host, and the name is $vSAN switch. Let's go ahead and execute that. Successful. Alright. Now we're going to add a virtual switch, physical network adapter. We're going to tell it which switch we're going to add this to. It's going to be the myStandard switch. We're going to tell it which NIC to use, physical NIC, and we're going to confirm. We're going to tell it $false not to confirm that. We're going to execute that. Looks like I got some error in my code here. Oh, forgot to define my variable in there. It's called physical NIC. Let's try that again. That worked. Good. Alright. now we're going to create a variable called vSwitch, VS, and we're going to tell it to get virtual switch, then vmhost, and we're going to tell it which host we're going to get. And then name is going to be vSwitch 0. Okay, go ahead and execute that. Oh, forgot to put the closing brackets there. Let's try that again. That worked. And now we're going to do a new vmhost network adapter. And we'll tell it which host. And then we'll tell it which port group. It's going to be vSAN. We'll tell it which virtual switch. $VS. We're going to give it an IP address that we're going to be using for vSAN here. That's going to be 192.168.0.231. A subnet mask. 255.250.0. And then before I do this, I want to show you if I ping this address that it doesn't exist, and then after I create it, it will. So ping, paste that address in there, and doesn't return to that response. So let's go ahead and execute this, creating that. Looks like it added that IP address to that kernel port. Let's go ahead and check out vCenter. It's executing all this just fine. Alright, now that I executed that, I should be able to ping it again. And it should be returning a ping now. Now that we confirm that it's pinging, we're going to add that kernel port, that network adapter, to our vSAN. And tell the host is vmhost. Okay. And then we're going to set the vmhost network adapter. And we're going to set it for vSAN traffic, $true. And then we're going to not confirm this by $false. So I'll execute that. Successful. Execute this. Oh, looks like I forgot to tell it which NIC. Oops, I forgot something here. I was actually wanting to set this in here. So I was going to pipe that and then set it. So let's execute that whole line of code. Here we go. We'll check out vCenter. Looks like it's creating that. Good. So it's adding that NIC to vSAN. So we're going to call this preparing host number 2 for vSAN. And so I like to do is before I was learning about for each loop, I would copy the same text and then basically do it again for the number of hosts that I have. So let's go ahead and copy that 2 more times. So we successfully ran all this code right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select it all and indent it, just basically indicating to me that it was successful. I need to do these last few hosts. So this is going to be vmhosts 3, and this one will be 4. Change this address to 202.202. I want to just double check and make sure. The only other thing I need to change in here is increment the address up for the vSAN VM kernel port. Again, before I do that, I'll just show you guys how that address isn't pingable. So 2, it's not pingable, 232, and then 233. So I'm going to go ahead and execute all this code again, and it'll add my second host to vSAN port group and prepare that. Creates an address of 232 on that kernel port. Let's check out vCenter. It's executing a bunch of tasks that we told it to do. Let's check our script. It's still executing for that host. Should be done here shortly. At 90%. And it's successful. Let's go back to our code. Looks like on host 4, we're going to execute that. We change the IP address for that kernel port. And let's go ahead and check this out. Oops, I forgot. I needed to change this actually to 203 and make sure I change this address to 233. Yep. So I'll go ahead and execute that again. We'll check out vCenter. It's executing our tasks, setting up vSAN port group. It's almost done. And after this, we should be all prepared in order to get ready to set up vSAN on our nested ESXi host. Let's go ahead and try and ping 233. That's pingable now. 232. That's pingable as well. So anyways, that completes this episode of how to connect your nested ESXi host to vCenter. And I hope you really enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check out episode 5 where we'll actually set up vSAN on these nested ESXi hosts, and we'll continue on with our lesson. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks.